Good morning, everyone. Bon matin à tous. My name is Pierre Leroux, and I'm the mayor of Russell Township. On behalf of council and our wonderful growing community here, I welcome you all. Pour plusieurs années maintenant, le canton de Russell est reconnu comme une des meilleures places à vivre dans tout le Canada. And that distinction is an honor that we hold with great pride. Today's announcement will help reinforce Russell Township's strategic vision to be the best place to live when planning your future. That is why it is my pleasure to act as your MC this morning. My first time in doing this, so please cut me some slack if there's any missteps. Our first speaker is someone I consider a colleague, an exceptional representative for his constituents, and more importantly, someone that I consider a friend. Mr. Francis Drouin, Member of Parliament for Glengarry, Prescott, Russell.
Thanks, Michael, and thank you, Pierre. After 5 years, I'm glad to hear those words still continue to be true. Bonjour. J'aimerais aussi souligner la présence du maire adjoint de Clarence-Rockland, Michel Levert. Merci beaucoup d'être ici. Merci à tous et à toutes d'être ici aujourd'hui pour une annonce dont plusieurs Ontariens attendent depuis longtemps. Avant de commencer, j'aimerais reconnaître que nous nous trouvons aujourd'hui sur le territoire non cédé du peuple algonquin en Anishinaabe. Si la pandémie de la COVID-19 nous a appris quelque chose, c'est qu'un accès à un service Internet fiable, abordable et accessible est essentiel. Depuis 2015, notre gouvernement a mis en place des mesures et programmes visant à rapidement offrir à tous un accès Internet, spécialement en milieu rural. Un accès Internet est non seulement essentiel pour les Canadiens et Canadiennes, elle est essentielle à une reprise économique forte et durable. Since 2015, our government has invested nearly $281 million in broadband funding in Ontario to connect over 150,000 households. We've also partnered with the province to invest $71 million towards EORN's $213 million project to improve access to cellular service in Eastern Ontario. And I know many of you online, I see some colleagues who are going through the riding, how important access to mobility connectivity is important. And under the rapid response stream of the UBF, 13 projects have been announced to date in the Eastern Ontario, representing just over $6.7 million to serve over 4,000 households. Connecting every Canadian household, every business, and every community is a key part of our pandemic response. It is where Canada's economic recovery begins, and we are committed to getting it done. With today's announcement, I'm happy to announce that we are closer in achieving our goal to connect 100% of Canadians, no matter where they live. Ici, dans l'Est de l'Ontario, l'important est que l'Internet soit accessible, peu importe le moyen ou le distributeur. Je suis heureux que ma collègue, l'honorable ministre Monsef, soit présent ici afin d'annoncer un financement majeur pour nos collectivités, nos entreprises et nos familles. Aujourd'hui, je suis fier de dire aux citoyens et citoyennes de l'Est de l'Ontario, nous vous avions promis l'Internet et nous allons livrer la marchandise. J'invite maintenant la ministre des Femmes et de l'Égalité des genres et du Développement économique rural, l'honorable Mariam Monsef, à prendre la parole.
Thank you, Michael. Merci, Francis. Hello, everybody. Bonjour, Anin. Salam alaikum. It is so wonderful to be in this beautiful library on this traditional territory that First Peoples have called home for generations. Specifically, I'd like to acknowledge and give gratitude to the Anishinaabe and Algonquin peoples. Today, we recognize the hard work of many and the innovation and the partnerships that are making it possible for us to connect our communities to this essential service. I am so pleased, Francis, to have an opportunity to be here with you. Francis is a force to be reckoned with. He is the guy I pick up the phone and call when this beautiful, vast region of ours comes up with ideas or hits snags along the way. the cell connection initiative with EORN, this initiative with the Universal Broadband Fund, Francis has been instrumental in helping us move forward. He's a leading voice within Rural Caucus, and he has the ability to bring us together and to find common ground. And I look on my screen here because the world is different now, and Neil Ellis is right in front of me as Parliamentary Secretary for Agriculture and Agri-Food, as Member of Parliament for Quinte West. He too has been a vital voice in the efforts to connect 100% of Canadians to this essential service. Joining us on screen, the Honourable Kinga Surma, the Minister responsible for this portfolio within the Government of Ontario, is here. Minister, it was so wonderful to be with you just a few days ago, where 3 women, Chrystia Freeland, yourself, and me, announced this big investment with the Ontario government, the federal government, and the Infrastructure Bank. And I look forward to all the work that we get to do together to improve our communities. Here with us is the MPP for Stormont Dundas South Glengarry, Jim McDonald. Wonderful to have so many representatives from various orders of government. Pierre Leroux, you may be, this may be your first time facilitating, but you're doing a great job so far, sir. I thank you, and Deputy Mayor for being here. And J. Murray Jones, the one and only J. Murray Jones. He's on a screen, and that screen will not contain him. J. Murray Jones is the mayor of the township of Duro-Dummer. He's also the warden for Peterborough County. And throughout the pandemic, I have seen this man step up, keep our spirits high, keep our community together. And throughout the past 6 years, I can truly say that my colleagues in the federal government have come to know J. Murray Jones as a strong voice and advocate for high-speed internet connections. J. Murray Jones, you and EORN showed us that it is possible to dream big and to dream fiber and to connect our communities to the very best possible technology. And I want to thank you for that, sir. Je commençais mon allocution par quelques mots de remerciement, puis je vous présenterai un rapport de progrès sur les connectés de nos communautés. Enfin, je vous parlerai des prochaines étapes. La COVID-19 a obligé beaucoup d'entre nous à rester à la maison, à s'éloigner de notre lieu de travail et à rester de loin de nos amis, de notre famille et de nos proches. COVID has forced so many of us to stay home, to stay away from our places of work, to stay apart from our loved ones, our family, and our friends. Cette réalité a renforcé notre dépendance à l'égard d'Internet haute vitesse pour aller à l'école, accéder à des soins de santé virtuels et se connecter les unes aux autres, to connect with each other. This reality, when libraries like this one closed, when families couldn't come to spaces like this to connect to the internet, to connect with their communities, and to connect with each other, it only reinforced our dependence to this essential service. And the gratitude that I have is for every Canadian who has inspired us to move forward quickly with the Universal Broadband Fund. From the working mom who has written to us again and again, and there are many like her. She's 20 minutes away from a key urban center, and she can't get high-speed internet. From families who wrote to us and said, we're making difficult choices like who should study and who should work. Qui ira étudier? Qui ira travailler? Those difficult choices that you've had to make gave us in Ottawa and in the province the urgency to move forward in creative ways. We heard from parents who weren't able to continue with their work so that they could help with their kids' online learning, and kids who felt left out because they couldn't benefit from online learning. We heard from farmers and producers who said they were innovating every day, and during a time when Canada's food sovereignty was front and center, these growers and producers told us they can do more if only they had access to this essential service. They'd be able to lead globally when it comes to food security and food sovereignty. Businesses on main streets, on concession streets, like here in Russell Road, communities across the country have had to pivot, and the road to recovery begins in rural Canada. It begins with high-speed internet, and it requires those businesses to be able to pivot online. And our government is working with our partners to do just that. The announcement we're making today will have a huge impact on communities from east of Durham to the Quebec and Ontario border. So if you live in Canada Carleton, in Peterborough Kawartha, in Glengarry, Prescott, Russell, in Bay of Quinte, Kingston and the Islands, Parry Sound and Muskoka, Hastings, Lennox, Addington, Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke, Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes, Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes, and Brock, Stormont, Dundas, South Glengarry, Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston, or Northumberland, Peterborough South, this announcement is for you. We're announcing today that the Government of Canada and Ontario have entered into a historic partnership that will bring high-speed internet to thousands of households in hundreds of communities across the province by 2025. The investment will be made possible by an equal federal investment totaling $1.2 billion. I want to thank Minister Surma and Minister Scott before her and your teams for absolutely rocking it and making sure that we got this agreement through, and I look forward to what's next for us. In addition, the Canada Infrastructure Bank is assessing opportunities through the Universal Broadband Fund to provide additional financing. So through these investments, it is my pleasure to highlight that today more than $362 million has been allocated for projects in Eastern Ontario that will benefit over 90,000 households in communities in this region. We've heard the voice of rural communities. We've heard you say, do not leave us behind in the recovery, and we won't. Through the Universal Broadband Fund, the government's building on its effort to make sure that every Canadian has access to this high speed and to this essential service. Since 2015, our efforts have already connected well over 175,000 households to this essential service. And I see to the municipal leaders in the room, you are well aware of the challenges that these complex infrastructure projects bring forward, which is why I'm particularly pleased that come this Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, winter solstice, there's going to be 435,000 households who didn't have access to high-speed internet last Christmas, who will have that gift of connectivity this year. This is because of the hard work of essential workers who are digging wires into the ground even as we speak and did so during COVID, because of innovative partners within the private sector and the public sector, and because governments are working together. Investing in broadband leads to GDP improvements. And of course, I look forward to working with Bell, with Cogeco, with Lansdowne Rural Telephone Company, Nexacom, Cogeco Connexion, Rogers, and Northumberland County as internet service providers who are going to move forward with these connections through fiber to the home. This is the gold standard technology, and as J. Marie Joan and the team at EORN and the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus have reminded us, our communities deserve the very best technology so that we can all keep up with the evolution of these technologies and scale up. So merci beaucoup, particularly to you, Francis, for including us here today, and I'll hand it back to our wonderful facilitator. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Minister. I think that when you were making your announcement, if we were all listening very closely, small rural village of Marionville had a sigh of relief to know that these improvements were coming, so thank you so much. At this time, I'd like to introduce Jim McDonnell, Member of Provincial Parliament for South Glengarry.
Good morning, everyone. I'm MPP Jim McDonnell, and I'd like to welcome all those joining in person and virtually to Eastern Ontario and the Township of Russell. I would like to thank the Honourable Kinga Sermon, Ontario's Minister of Infrastructure, for joining us this morning as well. Eastern Ontario appreciates your commitment to high-speed, reliable internet. And I'd like to recognize Federal Minister Mossop and MPP Drouin today. Since being elected, our government has prioritized the need for high-speed, reliable internet across Ontario, and we have made that a commitment to connect every community in Ontario by 2025, and have followed through with bold action. In this year's budget, we committed an additional $2.8 billion to high-speed internet for a total investment of $4 billion. The Ontario government, or the government of Ontario's funded commitment of high-speed internet connectivity is truly historic. We are making the largest investment of any government in any province in Canadian history. And I am grateful that Minister Surma understands the needs of rural Ontario. Last week, I was pleased to join Minister Surma for a $14.7 million investment by Ontario for 13 projects to connect 17,000 additional households. This includes Chrysler, North Stormont, and Akwesasne in my riding in Stormont, Dundas, and South Glengarry. Minister, you are always welcome to Eastern Ontario to continue making these significant announcements. Reliable cellular and internet service is an essential infrastructure, and it is the key for our local residents to access health care services, unlock economic opportunities, and connect with family and friends. Now, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Ontario's Minister of Infrastructure, the Honourable Kinga Serma, to share exciting news today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, MPP McDonnell. Good morning, everyone. I am very happy to be here today, and I wish I could have attended in person. I grew up in Ottawa, so it's a very special place to me. I'm very pleased to join my federal counterparts to deliver some good news the people in Eastern Ontario have been waiting for. Today, we are sharing more information on the Premier's bold plan that commits a historic investment of nearly $4 billion to connect every community in Ontario to high-speed internet by the end of 2025. This is the largest single investment in high-speed internet in any province by any government in Canada. The COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted just how crucial access to high-speed internet is for everyone, and that all Ontarians need it now more than ever. That is why our government is stepping up and delivering on its commitment. By working together with our federal partners, we are making a joint investment of over $362 million in new high-speed internet projects in Eastern Ontario. These projects, through the Improving Connectivity for Ontario and the Federal Universal Broadband Fund programs, will provide high-speed internet access for as many as 90,000 homes and businesses. This builds on another announcement the province made last week on Ontario's investment of up to $14 million for 13 projects submitted under our Improving Connectivity for Ontario program, also known as ICON. These projects will bring reliable high-speed internet to 42 communities across the province. We will also continue to move forward on existing initiatives and programs to connect communities, some of which are already starting to connect homes and businesses as we speak. These investments mean greater access to education, training, and skills development for students today and tomorrow. It will mean better access to vital services like healthcare and the ability to connect with family and friends. Our government is working hard to ensure that everyone, no matter where you live, can take part and thrive in the digital world. Access to high-speed internet is key in ensuring that the hardworking people in Ontario and our province is more resilient. It will create jobs in local communities and invest in our province's future today and for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister, for your kind words and support. It's incredible what can be accomplished when different levels of government work together. At this point in time, I'd like to introduce Maggie Papoulias, Director of Government Affairs for BCE. Ms. Papoulias, please go ahead.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here today to participate in this announcement and to bring greetings on behalf of Bell and our 22,000 employees in Ontario. Access to high-speed broadband networks will be a key driver of Canada's recovery from COVID-19 and to our future social and economic prosperity. Bell has committed to a bold infrastructure program, the biggest capital plan in its history, one that will add up to 900,000 additional fiber and rural wireless home internet locations, while also doubling Bell's 5G population coverage this year. Today, we are proud to invest over $423 million in partnership with the governments of Ontario and the Government of Canada to provide more residents in and around Arnprior, Bancroft, Barry's Bay, Brockville, Carp, Castleman, Constance Bay, Eganville, Kawartha, Kempville, Kingston, Perth, and Tweed, with access to the fastest fiber home internet speeds available. This partnership will allow us to provide residents with access to the social and economic benefits that come with being on Canada's best broadband network, networks that connect us to each other and the world, and that are the backbone of economic and social growth. I'd like to thank the ministers, the Government of Canada and Ontario, and the communities themselves for their support on this project. Partnerships are key to success. None of us advance these things alone. We applaud the Government of Canada and the Government of Ontario for their leadership, innovation, creativity, and collaboration. We look forward to continuing to work together. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Maggie, for BCE's commitment to our community. And last but definitely not least, His Worship, Mr. J. Murray Jones, Warden of Peterborough County, Mayor of the Township of Douro-Dummer, and Chair of the Eastern Ontario Regional Network. Your Worship.
Well, thank you very much, Pierre, for that kind introduction. And you know, the words I've heard today are certainly music to my ears, so we need to play on. I want to thank Minister Monsef, Minister Surma, also MP Drouin, MPP McDonnell, MP Ellis, who are with us today. And I want to thank everyone for including EORN and the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus in this wonderful announcement today. You know, we at EORN have been working on our 1 gig project proposal since about 2018. And I'm sure pretty much everybody here today has heard of that phrase. We've made sure you have. It was all designed to see a fiber connection to every home, cottage, and business in Eastern Ontario. And our staff completed a huge amount of research and costing on that project. And while we are, of course, disappointed that our project is not going to receive federal or provincial support at this time, we are extremely pleased with the significant financial commitments that both governments have made to improving broadband access throughout Eastern Ontario. Ontario and Canada are stepping up to the plate with their commitments. We applaud them, and I'm really counting on them hitting a home run. And we also thank you for your support and for your help in allowing EORN to do the CellGap project that is going on right now. The Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus has asked EORN to continue to monitor the rollout of projects by the 2 levels of government to ensure that our citizens and our businesses are not left behind. Those that have suffered the most in terms of lack of modern high-speed services during the pandemic deserve to be connected as soon as possible and not left to the end of their programs. This means those living in our rural areas should get speedy attention and get the same kind of gig level speeds as their urban neighbors. Whether you live on a main street, a country road, or a dead end, you deserve equal access to high-speed internet. So I've been known over the past number of years, and you can ask Minister Monsef this, and she'll attest to it, the term, we're all in this together. I've pretty well worn it out long before COVID ever came. But those words today have a very special ring to them. We are all in this together. So thank you. Let's connect. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I'd like to thank all of our speakers and guests for attending this morning, as well all the people watching virtually online. All these investments in rural broadband infrastructure will help not only our local community, but families and businesses across all of Eastern Ontario. At this point in time, I'd like to give the lectern back to Minister Monsef for last few words. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Your Worship. I believe it's now Marie-Pierre. Over to you for media.
Thank you very much, Minister Monsef. Thank you to all our esteemed guests today. So I will begin with a few words in French and we will follow up with English. Alors nous allons maintenant ouvrir pour la période de questions des médias. Les médias sont invités à poser une question et une question de suivi. Avant de poser votre question, s'il vous plaît, vous nommez le média que vous représentez et à qui la question s'adresse. We will now, thank you very much, we will now open the floor for a question from the media. Before asking your question, we would ask you to kindly please introduce yourself, the name of your media, and to whom your question is addressed to. Each media will be allowed one question, one follow-up. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Thomas Stockton. I'm a reporter at TVC 22 in Clarence, Rockland. My first question will be for yourself, Minister Monsef. Thank you very much. So the question I've got for you today is there were many good options put on the table to be able to advance broadband in rural areas in Eastern Ontario. One of them, of course, we heard the Honourable J. Murray Jones speak of his. So how can you be sure that you have picked the right option here, both financially from a federal and then provincial point of view, as well as for the residents and the people on the ground?
That's a really good question. Thank you so much. The main priority for all of us in federal, in provincial, in municipal government has been to connect as many households as quickly as possible to this essential service. And thanks to the expertise that we have within the Government of Canada, whether it's lead engineers, project managers, smart people who understand everything from spectrum to technologies like low Earth orbit satellites, we have that brain trust within the Government of Canada. And we've been working with the province of Ontario, and this phase of the Universal Broadband Fund followed the rapid response intake. So we asked folks to apply. We got a pretty impressive response from communities across the country, including here in Ontario. And we started with the ones that would get people connected to high-speed internet by the end of this year. And that was tens of thousands. Once we did that work, and our colleagues at EORN, for example, have helped us assess these projects to make sure that there are no redundancies or overlap. Once we did that, we work with the Government of Ontario and the Infrastructure Bank to look at the next big chunk of households that we could connect as quickly as possible. And that's what we've announced. You know, the 90,000 households who are going to be connected in this region are part of 280,000 households that are going to be connected across the entirety of the province. But we're not done yet, because there's about half of the households in this province without connectivity remaining. Even as we speak, our officials are assessing other applications that have come forward from the north, from Indigenous communities, for cell service particularly, and that next phase is going to continue to include this partnership that J. Murray Jones and Minister Surma spoke about. And the idea is to get through as many as possible, get shovels in the ground at the earliest convenience, and to make sure that folks have this connection. So, you know, we're updating our maps, we're collecting data we haven't before, and we're working in partnership in a way that we haven't before. So at this point, it's now up to municipalities, to internet service providers, to all of us to make sure that those other delays that get in the way of these projects, whether it's around shared infrastructure or assessments or zoning, that we get those out of the way in a good way. And where there's other infrastructure investment happening, that we work together to dig once. So if we're digging once to get wire into the ground in these communities, let's see what other infrastructure projects are also happening so that we can align them together. So it's a complex process, but a lot of smart people have worked diligently behind the scenes. And the key to this collaboration is ongoing communication between our partners, and I'm grateful to have that.
Thank you very much, Minister Monsef. Ma deuxième question est pour vous, député Francis Drouin.
Oui.
Merci beaucoup, M. Drouin. On en a parlé auparavant. Évidemment, avec cette annonce, on sait qu'il y a une organisation belle qui conduira les efforts pour nous donner la connectivité dans la région. Nous en avons parlé à propos de la relance économique dans notre région rurale et utiliser les commerces qu'on a ici dans la région. Donc, qu'est-ce que vous en pensez des petits commerces d'Internet qui existent? Je sais, jusqu'à vers Hawkesbury, il y en a 2 ou 3 qui ne sont peut-être pas dans ce projet. Où est-ce qu'ils sont et est-ce que vous allez les utiliser?
Oui, premièrement, le fonds rapide avait été créé justement pour les plus petits commerces. Sans aller en détail, pour certaines raisons, il y en a qui n'ont pas appliqué. Mais je pense que l'important de l'annonce aujourd'hui, c'est que peu importe qui va faire ce travail-là, c'est que le travail se fait. Et je tiens à remercier Mme Papoulias de BCE qui, eux, ont été le projet parce qu'il y a eu un processus d'application. Ils ont fait l'application. Et comme représentant local, j'ai le devoir de dire, est-ce que j'appuie un projet sachant très bien qu'il va y avoir un délai dans la connectivité de mes résidents ou est-ce que, comme aujourd'hui, j'appuie un projet dont je peux connecter les résidents le plus rapidement possible? Et je peux pas, je dois appuyer la solution qui est le plus rapide et qui aura un impact, pour ma part, je sais, c'est pratiquement la moitié du comté. Donc, c'est un impact majeur pour les résidents qui sont dans les situations rurales chez nous.
Parfait, merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Alors, c'est ce qui met fin à la période de questions. Nous remercions tous ceux qui sont présents aujourd'hui et nous vous souhaitons une excellente journée. This will now close the media question period, and we hope everybody will have a lovely sunny day today. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.